Hello, and welcome to the Steve and Mark Discuss podcast, where one of us comes up with a subject, we will talk a bit about it, and the other one will give us a reply, and we might have a discussion as well. So now it's my turn. Now, this is something I've been thinking about this week. Been having a few technical problems with my hardware, my computer hardware. Steve, Steve will attest to. There's some various different correspondence we've been having and discussions. Yeah, obviously I do the production side of all this. So Steve does the brainy side, and I just sit there and push some buttons, and hopefully something comes out the other end, which is great if you have the hardware to do it. I have had problems with, yeah, basically two pieces of hardware I've had go wrong on me, which has now pushed me into having to, yeah, take a considered thing for both my professional life and having to buy new equipment. Now, it suddenly realized I am now totally dependent on technology to earn a living, quite literally. And we're not just talking about a car where I have alternatives to go on a bus or something else to get to work. We are talking literally dependent. I'm reliant on my own systems in my own home, if you like, in order to earn a living. What happened this morning is the internet went down. Our local internet cable went down, and I was panicking. Not panicking because fortunately, I didn't have to use my internet connection referred to him this morning. Sometimes I do to make a job. That went down. I'm reliant on the power in the house in order to do anything. All of which has happened in the past 2 weeks to me. My sudden realization that I am so cool with all this things around me, with so many things that are not really within my control. And then it got me thinking, okay, I'm having to, instead of buying a laptop now, I've decided to buy a good old desktop. When things go wrong on that, it's all separate. I'm an engineer. I like separates. Screen goes wrong, I get a new screen and use that instead. Power cable goes wrong or something, I get a new power cable quite easily, not reliant on just one. So yeah, the realization of all this, and also making myself future proof. I realized with a laptop, when the laptops go wrong, what do? We just bin them effectively, and we buy a new one, which can't be that environmentally friendly. When you look at this heap of plastic in front of you, which I'm looking at now, with a desktop or a tower system, whatever name you want to call them, we can rip a card out, put a new one in, upgrade it that way, put a new graphics card in, update it to our heart's content. To me, that is far more environmentally friendly. Again, somebody can reply to us down below and explain to me why I may be wrong with this. From what I can tell, much more user serviceable as an individual rather than a laptop. And I have done. I have taken them apart, managed to do things, put more memory in, etc., etc. Very, very fiddly. Yeah, with a tower system, great. Take the side off, slot the new card in, and away you go. Yeah. No real training required. Almost. Just make sure you put the card in the right way. That's all. Which you can do because it's all slotted. Anyway, this got me thinking environmental issue. On a far more serious note, and this has come from the news this week. If somebody suddenly decided, and let's go down the road, that I was a bad boy, I said the wrong thing online, news item, for example, yeah, said something that wasn't considered to be the party line, as it were, somebody could decide that I wasn't entitled to an internet connection anymore, yeah, to do podcasting. Okay, podcasting near there. I'm not exactly certain podcasters who have been cut off by served by platforms. Yes, I'm not dependent on it to make a living. Yeah. But yeah, the fear is now is that somebody could decide that no, you shouldn't be allowed to have an internet connection because A, B, and C. Yeah. There's other people that have had internet are not allowed to have internet for very, very good reason. I will say that. But yeah, someone like us, myself and Steve. So somebody could decide hasn't got enough social credits, no more internet connection, which would mean I was effectively stuck for earning a living. Okay, it's adaptation. But yeah, majority of us are. The other thing is everything's traceable now when we earn a living online with our banking and everything else. The British government this week or last week managed to get through a law with the tax man is the tax companies can now approach platforms such as YouTube or others if people are making doing a side hustle. Now, I'm not saying nobody should be able to, everyone should pay their tax or anything. The abilities now of governments to monitor absolutely everything we do and say is absolutely frightening. And yes, these companies will now in the UK be duty bound to say who's earning money or who's doing what. Now we have to think about the wider implications of this. I mean, I'd like to know how people actually make a lot of money online. I really would, because I'm sure Steve and myself would be very interested to jump on that gravy train. We try very hard, but yeah, I earn a living through third parties and things and pay my tax where I am because I have my own company. But it is actually quite frightening now on this. So there's two folds to this, two sides to this. How reliant I am on having this technology and how this technology can now be used against me and to control me. Over to you, Steve.
Okay, that's a can of worms that once you open it, it's full of little worms to take out one by one. So you know that tech stuff are not very techy.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm a more pounds, shillings, and pence man than techie. However, you could put a little generator dynamo on a bicycle, and when you're giving your lessons, you could ride your bicycle to generate enough energy, keep you green, to keep the lesson going.
Yeah.
And the lesson will go as long as you can keep pedaling.
Yeah.
So yeah. But in terms of governments controlling what we do, look, that's been on the cards for a 20, 30 years. I remember around about 30 years ago, David Icke, he was on about it, and everybody thought he was a crazy man. I go back to Alex Jones, I mentioned in another podcast. Alex Jones, he was on about it many moons ago, and when everybody thought he was a conspiracy theorist. And it turns out that a lot of what he said is coming about. There's a recent thing that the Brazilian government is doing, is allowing people, you have to download the government's app and then all electronically, by the way. You download their app and they allow you to fly for 200 reais anywhere in Brazil. I think it's anywhere in Brazil.
Yeah.
E.D. Volta. There and back.
There and back.
Return.
Yeah.
Return.
Yeah.
Right. And so and this app is valid once you sign up to this app. It's valid for 5 years. And you can have, I think it's 4 trips a year. And you can take somebody with you. Sounds like a great deal. It does. If you don't mind the government knowing where you're going. Because, nobody's going to give you something for nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the government basically will be monitoring you to see where you'd be taking these flights to,
Mm.
if you're going to be taking them with frequency,
Mm.
and if you're taking them too frequently, uh, what you up to,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and they'll also, if you're claiming that if you're claiming that you don't earn enough to pay tax, and all of a sudden you're
Mm.
flying around and spending your money on flights
Yeah.
and hotels and stuff like that, because it's not just the flight, as we know.
Mm.
It's a hotel and
Yeah.
what you spend your money on when you get there, and all this sort of thing. These You go to the supermarket
Mm.
and your fidelity points,
Oh yeah. Yes. That's
right?
one.
Your fealty points, where if you use your card,
Mm.
you get some extra points or you get some
Mm.
discounts. Of course, you also tell them who you are,
Mm.
what you bought,
Yeah.
when you bought it,
Mm.
where you bought it,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
and they track you down as to if you say that you're in an income bracket
Mm.
and all of a sudden you're buying Lamborghinis, you know,
Yeah. Yes.
that something's gonna, even we had a thing recently with Joe Biden
Mm.
and the banks, when somebody receives a transfer,
Mm.
an international transfer that's out of the ordinary,
Mm.
the bank has to give an alert
Yeah.
to the powers that be to say these people are receiving this money.
Oh yeah.
So that if the government wants to, it can look into it and find out where the money's come from, why it's been given.
Yeah.
The same in Brazil. If
Mm.
you to get a transfer of international transfer of money via the banking system,
Mm.
it's all tracked.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, so what you're telling me is nothing new.
No.
What is new is the acceptance of the people. If they are willing enough to comply,
Mm.
it's to comply.
Yeah.
You have to comply. And if you're a naughty boy,
Mm.
you're a naughty boy, they can, if I'm not saying they will do it now,
Mm.
although they have done, like you said, with some podcasters,
Yeah.
they've even cut down their GoFundMe accounts, and
Mm. Yeah.
so they can't receive payment for what they do to earn a living.
Yeah.
Basically, they pull the rug out from beneath their feet,
Exactly. Yeah.
and and they can't make a living anymore.
Mm.
If you agree with them or not,
Yeah.
you know, and so you know, the big question is what how big will the compliance need to be for you to get on in life, if you want to be in this regime of doing everything electronically,
Mm.
because that's the only way they can keep tabs.
Yeah.
If even if you walk down the street with your cell phone,
Yeah.
they know where you are because of the GPS. They know
Well, of
where you
course.
are
Yeah. Yeah.
within 10 yards, I think it is.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's a yeah. I mean, that's the point I'm making. We're heading towards this. It's 1984 on steroids, in to a certain
Well, in
extent.
that case, you need to reflect
Yeah.
and ask yourself,
Mm.
am I willing to comply?
I mean,
If you're willing to comply,
yeah.
then I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah. I
If
mean,
if you're worried about it,
yeah.
you know,
Well, I mean,
what's going to happen.
yeah.
You know what's going to come down the pipe.
Yeah, I mean it. I mean, yeah, yeah. It's ultimately being, yeah. Just look at it. I mean, yeah. It's just it started me thinking. I mean, obviously, I grew up with 1984. I grew up with all the science fiction and everything else because we've discussed this before. But yeah. So yeah, making a point. But yeah, it just suddenly struck me that yeah, how reliant I am on tech, and like I say, not necessarily the tech in my home. I mean, I'm doing this on a 15-year-old laptop, which I happen to have laying around the house. I don't throw anything away. My wife goes absolutely mad at me because I don't, because it enables me to keep going. When I used to have a shed, I used to have a shed full of old screws and everything else. Yeah, I'm that kind of guy. Yeah, something needs repairing or just needs holding together. I'll cobble something together. Yeah, I'm old school like that. Yeah, I mean, okay, the newest machine I've got hasn't got a DVD player. I just happen to have an old external DVD player if I even want that to watch a DVD on the new computer setup that I then can wire into my TV, into my smart TV, and watch it on that. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's how we go. But yeah, it is our total reliance, and because we have this reliance on it, as you say, we've either got to accept it. You tried stepping out on the grid. Now there's a certain podcaster who's always talking about getting back to nature and going in the woods, and yeah, he's a bit of a prepper as well. Yeah, I mean, I did that in the Boy Scouts. I know how to whittle things with a knife, and can do things. I can set up a bivouac or a tent or whatever else I need to do if it came to that. I'm not quite sure I'd do it in Recife. where would be a good place to go?
On the beach.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Where does nobody else go? I mean, that's a joke I've got with my wife, actually. Yeah, I'd be quite happy to have a field like you have, get a farmstead, have a field, and have a shack in the middle of a field. But again, it's not a sustainable lifestyle, as you know. You can't sort of live off the land that easily in our modern society. Yeah, it's just something that struck me this week. I thought it'd just be an interesting discussion topic. And like you say, leading into where we are going in society. On this podcast, who talks about getting back to nature at least for a couple of hours, a few hours, walk through a forest or walk, which I do quite frequently. I walk along the beach. But again, I'm not away from civilization, as it were. Yeah. I like walking in the woods and used to do it back in the UK. Used to have local castles I used to walk to for free and things like this, real sort of imagination things. Very, very healthy. And getting out and about. I probably spend 60% of my working life now effectively in front of a computer screen just to earn money. Yeah, quite literally. I was doing this statistics the other day. Yeah. I do have presential, what we call face-to-face meetings as well with people, which is a great lesson, yeah, which is still enjoyable. I miss total classroom work where you're in front of a class doing things like this. I didn't expect to be a teacher. I passed exams to be a teacher, so it's not as I'm doing it just as got off an aircraft in Brazil and did it. I made sure I had some bits of paper that said I can do this. But yeah, it went online. I made myself knowledgeable about the going online before it became a necessity. So it didn't come as a shock because I saw my industry go this way, along with many other industries as well. The pandemic just sped this up. Now, whether the pandemic was planned or utilized or gone like this, many companies are now encouraging their staff to go back to the office. A lot are reluctant to do this. Yeah, we suddenly found this way that we can stay at home and earn a living, which honestly is great and everything else. I was talking to a student this week about it, or a couple I've had a conversation, and many are beginning to miss the actual social interactions with people. Yeah. So on the one hand, you've got governments who've got control of us by working from home, doing things, earning a living, however we're doing it, selling online as well, bearing in mind, yeah, which is all traceable. They can see what we're doing. Gone are the days you can just sort of have a market stall somewhere or a boot fair or something, make a few honest or dishonest quid that way. Maybe not. I'm encouraging anyone to be dishonest. I will add that. I'm making a point here that the Del Boys, which is a program that was on the UK TV, which people may remember, who is a bit of a hero for all the wrong reasons, possibly. So yeah, our way of life is changing. Nothing is ours anymore, as it were. We can't be secret. We have introduced in 1984, the book, there was the camera that had to be on all the time. Effectively, we've done that now. I'm talking to you on a webcam. The screens in 1984 with the cameras on them, what are they but webcams?